with an atmosphere brimming with diplomatic anticipation, on the very eve of a pivotal global summit destined to profoundly shape the future of international cooperation and understanding. A statement of immense gravity and of urgent, heartfelt appeal was delivered to the ears of the world. Tomorrow, my solemn duties will necessitate my presence in the city of Seville, where I am scheduled to actively participate in the 4th International Conference dedicated to the critical subject of financing for development, a significant undertaking of immense global importance that we are proudly co-hosting in a close and dedicated partnership with the esteemed nation of Spain. However, before I embark upon my journey and immerse myself fully within the intricate and vital agenda of that crucial forum, I feel a profound obligation, a moral imperative that resonates deeply within me, to address the unfolding and deeply concerning situation that continues to develop within the Gaza Strip, a grim reality that unequivocally demands the immediate, unwavering, and comprehensive attention of the entire global community without further delay. Throughout the course of the recent weeks, the escalating tensions that have unfortunately arisen between the nations of Israel and Iran have, quite understandably, dominated the prominent headlines and effectively captured the focused attention of global discourse. Yet, it is absolutely imperative that we, collectively, do not permit the profound and widespread suffering of the Palestinian people within Gaza to be carelessly pushed into the shadows of indifference or to be relegated to the mere periphery of our collective consciousness. The recent, albeit fragile, cessation of hostilities that was so painstakingly achieved between Iran and Israel offers a delicate and tentative glimmer of hope. And it is a commodity, this hope, that is more desperately and urgently needed today than perhaps ever before in recent memory. It is precisely for this very compelling reason that the opportune time has undeniably arrived to summon the genuine, unvarnished political courage that is so urgently required to forge and implement a comprehensive, enduring, and truly lasting ceasefire within Gaza, bringing an end to the ongoing violence and devastation. Following the truly devastating terror attacks that were so brutally perpetrated by Hamas on the 7th of October, acts which I have unequivocally condemned in the most absolute and unyielding terms, the ensuing military operations that have been undertaken by Israel have, regrettably, precipitated a humanitarian crisis of almost unimaginable and overwhelming proportions. The current situation, as it stands today, is demonstrably more dire, more desperate, and more acutely catastrophic than at any previous point in this tragically long and undeniably brutal period of intensified crisis and widespread suffering. Entire families, innocent civilians, have been displaced from their homes not merely once, but repeatedly, time and time again, and are now tragically compressed into an ever-shrinking sliver of territory that constitutes less than 1/5 of Gaza's total original land area. Even these increasingly diminishing spaces, which were intended as last refuges and havens of safety, remain under constant and imminent threat of further destruction and devastation. The utterly devastating impact of ordnance continues to fall relentlessly upon makeshift tents, upon families huddled together in desperate fear, upon those who have absolutely nowhere left to flee for safety or sanctuary. Innocent people are being tragically killed while engaged in the simple, desperate, and fundamental act of trying to secure essential food for themselves and their beloved loved ones. The fundamental search for sustenance, a basic human need, must never, under any circumstances, be allowed to become a death sentence for anyone. Allow me, if you will, to state with absolute and unassailable clarity: Israel, as the recognized occupying power, is unequivocally bound by the fundamental tenets of international law to agree to and to actively facilitate the unimpeded delivery of vital humanitarian relief to those in desperate need. In reality, however, the crucial humanitarian operations continue to be systematically and tragically strangled, hampered at every turn. For a prolonged period now, exceeding 3 full months, the essential entry of vital shelter materials and the critical fuel required for the operation of essential services has been consistently and deliberately blocked. Medical professionals, dedicated individuals who strive to save lives, are being cruelly forced to make an impossible and agonizing choice: to decide which critically ill patient will receive the last remaining vial of life-saving medicine, or who will be connected to the last available functioning ventilator. The aid workers themselves, brave souls who have been dispatched with the noble intention of alleviating the suffering of others, are now themselves experiencing the gnawing pangs of starvation. This current state of affairs, this unacceptable reality, cannot and must not be normalized. It absolutely cannot be accepted by any civilized society. Earlier this week, a heartbreakingly meager quantity of medical provisions, a consignment so distressingly small, finally managed to make its way into Gaza, marking the very first such delivery after an agonizing stretch of many months. This singular event, however, does not signify any form of positive advancement. Rather, it serves as a stark and deeply painful testament to the immense, overwhelming magnitude of the prevailing crisis. A mere trickle of aid is, by its very nature, fundamentally insufficient to address the colossal needs. What is now desperately and urgently required is a substantial surge, a transformation of that insufficient trickle into a vast, life-sustaining ocean. We are in dire need of concrete, decisive, and impactful actions to ensure that essential assistance can reach every single person swiftly, at the scale that is absolutely necessary and irrespective of their current location. Any operational strategy that redirects vulnerable civilians into areas designated as militarized zones is inherently and profoundly unsafe, carrying with it the grim and unacceptable cost of human lives. The moment has undeniably arrived for an immediate cessation of hostilities within Gaza, for the prompt and unconditional release of all individuals currently held hostage, and for the establishment of complete, secure, and sustained humanitarian access. The formidable challenge of effectively distributing humanitarian aid must be decisively and irrevocably overcome. There exists absolutely no justification or necessity to embark on the arduous and unproductive task of reinventing the wheel by concocting dangerous and as yet untested schemes. The definitive solution to this pressing issue is already within our possession. A meticulously detailed and comprehensively developed plan, one that is firmly anchored in the fundamental humanitarian principles of humanity, impartiality, neutrality, and independence. We possess the vital supplies that are so critically needed. We possess the extensive and invaluable experience required for such an undertaking. Our proposed plan is meticulously guided by the clearly articulated needs of the very people it is intended to serve. It has been meticulously built upon a robust foundation of trust that has been carefully cultivated with communities, with generous donors, and with member states alike. Furthermore, this very plan demonstrably proved its effectiveness during the preceding period of ceasefire. Consequently, it must, without question, be permitted to function once more. To those individuals who currently occupy positions of significant power, I convey this urgent message. Please enable our vital operations, as unequivocally mandated by international humanitarian law. To those who possess considerable influence, I implore you, please wield that influence for the betterment and ultimate good of all humanity. And to all member states, I earnestly appeal to you. Please uphold the principles enshrined within the United Nations Charter, a commitment to which you collectively reaffirmed your unwavering support just yesterday, on the momentous occasion of its 80th anniversary. Let us all work together to bring in the life-saving supplies. Let us make every effort to reach the people wherever they may be situated. And let us collectively acknowledge with profound clarity that the ultimate and enduring solution to this deeply complex problem is, and has always unequivocally been, of a political nature. The only viable and sustainable path forward, the sole pathway toward the reestablishment of hope and normalcy, lies in diligently paving the way for a just and lasting two-state solution. Diplomacy, coupled with a profound and unwavering respect for the inherent human dignity of every individual, must, in the final analysis, triumph. Following the Secretary-General's deeply impassioned and compelling address, the opportunity for questions was extended to the members of the press. The very first inquiry that emerged was posed by a representative of the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation. This question carried a distinctly sharp and accusatory tone, asserting with considerable force that the United Nations had, in fact, actively engaged in a deliberate campaign of misinformation concerning a series of killings that had allegedly transpired in close proximity to the Foundation's vital food distribution sites. The representative then directly requested a clear and unambiguous response to this extremely grave allegation. The Secretary-General's reply was delivered with a quiet yet unshakable intensity. "We did not invent the images that everyone has seen," he stated, a concise yet powerful rebuttal that effectively underscored the organization's unwavering reliance on verifiable, widely circulated visual evidence rather than on fabricated or unsubstantiated narratives. The subsequent focus of the inquiries then shifted geographically, as Bollier, a seasoned correspondent representing the AFP news agency, directed his question toward the deeply troubling and rapidly deteriorating situation that is currently unfolding in Sudan. He commenced his query by referencing a statement that had been officially released earlier that very morning by General Buran. This statement claimed that the general had engaged in a direct phone call with the Secretary General. According to the assertions within this statement, the Secretary General had purportedly suggested a one-week ceasefire specifically within Al-Fashir, a proposal that General Buran had reportedly accepted. Bollier then sought definitive confirmation of this particular account and further inquired whether any parallel discussions had concurrently been held with the leadership of the Rapid Support Forces, RSF, and, if so, what their reported response had been to such overtures. The Secretary General unequivocally affirmed the ongoing diplomatic endeavors. We are actively engaging with both parties with this very specific objective in mind, and indeed, that constituted the foundational rationale behind that particular telephone conversation, he elucidated. He then proceeded to emphasize the profound gravity of the prevailing circumstances. We are presently confronting a truly calamitous situation unfolding in Al-Fashir, and you may well recall that on a prior occasion, a substantial convoy belonging to the United Nations Children's Fund, commonly known as UNICEF and the World Food Program, tragically came under bombardment. The populace in that locale is suffering from acute starvation and finds itself ensnared in an exceptionally precarious predicament. Consequently, it is imperative that we secure a period of designated truce to facilitate the unimpeded distribution of humanitarian aid, and this agreement must be reached several days in advance to meticulously orchestrate a massive influx of essential assistance into the Al-Fashir region. He concluded his remarks with an expression of tempered optimism. I remain hopeful, particularly given that I received a positive affirmation from General Buran, and I harbor the sincere hope that both factions will fully comprehend the paramount importance of averting the unfolding humanitarian catastrophe that we are presently witnessing in Al-Fashir. The subsequent inquiry originated from Gabriel Elizondo, representing Al Jazeera English, who pertinently highlighted a report that had been published earlier that very morning in the esteemed Israeli publication, Haaretz. He solicited the Secretary General's considered reaction to the detailed revelations contained within the report, which meticulously chronicled admissions from Israeli soldiers indicating they had received direct orders to fire upon unarmed Palestinian civilians who were awaiting the delivery of essential aid. Mr. Elizondo followed this initial query with a second, more incisive question. Has the opportune moment now arrived for the member states of this organization to impose sanctions upon Israel to compel its adherence to the established principles of international law? In his considered response, the Secretary General adroitly navigated the exceptionally sensitive subject matter with a profound degree of diplomatic acumen, consciously refraining from offering any specific commentary on the aforementioned newspaper article. Nevertheless, his pronouncement regarding the broader, overarching principle was unequivocally clear and resolute. Well, it is certainly not requisite for us to receive a report of such a nature to acknowledge the extensive and profoundly egregious transgressions of established international law that have regrettably occurred, he stated with unwavering conviction. And indeed, it is an undeniable tenet that whenever a violation of international law transpires, there must be a commensurate degree of accountability. This carefully articulated reply effectively and skillfully redirected the focus away from any singular, isolated allegation and firmly anchored the discussion on the paramount and non-negotiable principle of accountability within the comprehensive framework of global jurisprudence. The concluding question of the discourse was thoughtfully posed by Joseph Klein, affiliated with the Canada Free Press. He referenced recent pronouncements made by Palestinian President Abbas, who had articulated that the essential pathway toward achieving a comprehensive and enduring cessation of hostilities within Gaza must encompass not only the secure release of all detained individuals and the complete withdrawal of Israeli military forces, but also the absolute disarmament of Hamas and the thorough relinquishment of its existing power and authority. Mr. Klein then earnestly requested the Secretary General's considered observations on this particular proposition. The response provided was a clear and unambiguous reaffirmation of the United Nations' long-standing and consistent stance. We unequivocally recognize the Palestinian Authority as the legitimate governing authority within the Palestinian territories, the Secretary General declared with considerable gravitas. And it is, of course, our unwavering commitment to support any peace initiative that is spearheaded and led by the Palestinian Authority. With this definitive statement, he brought the exchange to a close, leaving absolutely no room for ambiguity concerning the United Nations' steadfast dedication to collaborating with internationally recognized and legitimate governing bodies as the fundamental cornerstone for the establishment of any lasting and sustainable peace arrangement. This entire dialogue served as a potent and impactful reminder of the intricate and interconnected crises confronting the global community and underscored the persistent and unyielding pursuit of diplomatic solutions in the face of profound and widespread human suffering.